When we look at other countries who had much more aggressive shutdowns and then more gradually reopening with the health professionals in the lead, their economies are recovering much more quickly now. So we blew it the first time, and Dr. Osterholm and I are arguing we should do it right this time.
Hey everyone, me Kevin here. The Federal Reserve is suggesting more stimulus and potentially a re-shutdown of the economy. Let's talk about what was said and then talk about some conclusions that we can take away from this. After all, this is your Me Kevin Report, where I report news that makes you money. Welcome back and consider subscribing. The president of the Federal Reserve Bank of Minneapolis, Neel Kashkari, says that we blew it. We did a partial shutdown and we failed. We gave up too soon and we were not strict enough. He says we weren't strict enough because about 38% of Americans were considered essential workers. In Minneapolis, he says 78% of Americans were considered essential. In other words, we have a very uneven economic recovery because we did not shut down correctly and now we're paying the price for that. He thinks we're going to have a very rocky road for the next 2 years until a vaccine comes out and bails us out. Instead, Neel Kashkari says, hey, imagine if we just shut down correctly. Imagine if we had done it right. You shut down properly for 2 to 3 weeks, then you monitor and manage the flare-ups and provide proper stimulus. This kind of makes sense because it's sort of what other countries have done. Other countries have provided, here's stimulus money, here's generous stimulus money, please just stay home and stay shut down. In Neel's mind, the lack of stimulus, especially Congress leaving without a deal, is, quote, profound. In other words, Neel is totally shocked that Congress would just up and leave before finalizing the next rounds of stimulus. And I couldn't agree more. It's so shocking that I want to make sure my life insurance is still up to date, which you can get as well in as little as 5 minutes, and Apple or Android pay for it really fast. Check it out via the link down below and get 2 free stocks with Webull while you're down there. Just make sure to deposit $100 and then you'll get the second free stock. Neel then goes on to say that it seems like we've given up, and instead we should do it right this time, shut down correctly, and take control of the virus. But if we do that, people and businesses need support. If this continues to burn on for the next year or two, then Congress should support the people and businesses for the next year or two. And the fact that they left is ridiculous. The more aggressive we are on the virus, he says, the shorter the bridge is we have to build. That sort of safety net bridge that we have to build to get us over their sort of imaginary river that we're in.
If we don't arrest the virus, and this is going to be burning for the next year or two, people are going to need support for the next year or two. If we were to do an aggressive intervention now, the bridge that they would need would be much shorter, and it would actually be more affordable than having to provide assistance for the next couple of years. But it is very important that Congress continues to provide support, especially to those workers who continue to be unemployed.
Neel then also went on to tell us that it's important not to raise interest rates too early because that enlarges the racial wealth gap. All right, so let's try to make some conclusions from this because we got some information we could take away from this and just bottom line. Number one, do we actually think the economy is going to shut down again? Probably not. This is very unlikely and it's very unpopular. Unless, of course, we see some crazy second wave in the winter, which is possible, that's probably the only way we might see another shutdown. Instead, the second thing that Neel Kashkari brings up is the most blunt pressure we have seen on Congress yet. And Neel Kashkari is right. The solution that America needs right now is stimulus to prevent preventable bankruptcies. There are too many people who don't have enough money for food. There are too many businesses who can't stay open. And when Yelp says that 55% of businesses aren't going to reopen after this pandemic, we know that we really butchered the shutdowns because we didn't provide enough support to people and businesses. Now, this is exactly what the Federal Reserve is saying, and they're saying let's provide more support. Neel also says that this is a lesson that we need to keep interest rates as low as possible. We need to make sure that interest rates don't go up and we don't raise them prematurely like we did in 2018. This, by the way, is good for anybody buying stocks or real estate sooner. So what's the big bottom line? Why is the Fed saying this? Why is the Fed ramping up this pressure? Well, the Fed is basically an economic collection powerhouse. They collect all of this data, and what they do with that data is they report it to Congress. And the expectation is that if economic uncertainty increases and we start seeing pretty crappy data over the next couple months, it's very likely the Fed is going to pull all this data together, go in front of Congress and say, Congress, we've been telling you for months, you need to provide more stimulus. Here's the data. This is where we're starting to see fallbacks. This is where we're starting to see slowing again. We need to provide more support. This continued pressure from the Federal Reserve is very good. Unfortunately, practically, it does very little for us. The Fed can't provide us with stimulus checks, and all they can do is try to pressure Congress to do the right thing. What do you think? Do we need to shut down again? Or do we need to just keep chugging along and barrel through this? What's your take? I'll see you in the comments down below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.